Progressive rock is probably my favorite genre of guitar to play. I think there's a lot that goes into a progressive rock riff, and of course I'm not going to be able to include every element of every amazing progressive rock riff, but I'm basically going to draw from some of my guitar heroes, John Petrucci, Joe Satriani, those kind of guys, and construct a riff and show you what I'm thinking in hopes that you will be able to apply some of the mindsets that I take throughout this lesson and create your own progressive rock riffs. So progressive rock riffage is kind of intimidating to write, even if you're an experienced guitar player, because it takes so much accuracy and finesse to really create some convincing prog rock. So I think the easiest way to start is kind of from the ground up and build from there. At least that's how I'm going to show you. So what I'm going to do is just take first a tonality or a couple of chords that I'm going to build on top of. So the chords are just going to be E and F sharp. And I'm going to throw those chords into a certain rhythm that is conducive for progressive rock. So I'm going to pick a time signature that isn't common. I would say it's kind of common. I'm going to use 3/4, but the point is it's not necessarily something that you just sit down and start strumming. No, we are prog rocking, so I'm going to have some type of odd meter that kind of pulls you to and fro, and the rhythms that I implant in that meter will also be a little bit off the beat, on the beat, that type of thing. I think that's really a key element of prog rock, is that you're never completely comfortable rhythmically. So that's the riff that I'm working with. That is the bare bones basic riff that I'm going to now build on top of. And there's a couple ways that you can build a prog rock riff, and I think this can actually apply to any kind of songwriting. If you're trying to embellish a chord progression, these types of methods of thinking will be applicable. So in this context, I am going to work in a couple different chord voicings so that we're not just playing power chords, you know. We want to have some type of virtuosic chord voicing to really bring out the most in the harmony. So I'm not going to really get into theory in this lesson, but you can just understand there are just two notes. This is just an E and a third, which would be G sharp. And then I'm moving up to the F sharp, and this is a 4. So instead of these power chords, we've got pretty cool and really reminiscent of some of my favorite guitar players, kind of getting outside the box as far as power chords are concerned, getting away from those, but still having that girthy element to them. And I don't know what it is, but maybe it's this guitar or something, but these two notes at this point on the neck just sound really good. So another little filler that I threw in there, it's an embellishment on this F sharp. So it's just taking that major second interval, which I really like, throwing it in there in time. So we're getting there. I think we have to add one more thing, and I think it's going to be something flashy, something really just like, man, that's sick. And how about we'll take a little trick out of Petrucci's book and do some kind of hyper speed, hyper sextuplet thing. And basically this needs to be filled in, again, kind of trying to make the riff more interesting, more proggy. Sometimes prog is about how many notes you can fit in a measure without actually sounding like, whoa, there's way too many notes in that measure. So I think a cool way to do that is to have a really fast rhythm, really cool, like maybe Petrucci style lick to get us back from the F sharp to the E. So this riff I would consider to be in the key of E Lydian. So I'm just going to take some notes right out of that Lydian mode. Yeah, that's cool. So whatever prog riff you come up with, you want to practice it slowly so you can really nail the intricacies and articulate the right points in the riff to give it the most effectiveness. Pretty sweet. Let's speed it up. So I think we have our prog riff now. All I did was start with a couple chords. I picked a time signature to put those chords into. I found ways to embellish the chords while staying in that original feel. And then, for good measure, I added a little kind of flashy filler lick that doesn't necessarily make the phrase too busy, but it also doesn't make it not busy. It's got that fat groove, but it's also kind of not quite radio material, if you know what I'm saying. So I'm going to throw some drums and bass and maybe take a little lead over this sweet little prog riff, and I hope you got something out of this. I think it was a cool way to approach writing any kind of music, but specifically prog. I was in a proggy mood, so how many times am I gonna say prog? Prog rock for the win. Hope you guys had a good time. I did. See you next time.